When you create a piece of evergreen content, I'm not just going to say content, it's evergreen content. When you create that, you have now created an asset for your brand that will bring traffic over to your brand of the right people. Well, hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to the Rock Your Brand podcast. I'm your host, Scott Boker, a serial entrepreneur on a mission to help you. This show is designed to teach you, to inspire you, to motivate you to take massive action and build a future-proof business. So, whether you're just starting out or taking your existing business to the next level, this is your home. Now, if you're ready, I'm ready. Let's rock your brand. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Rock Your Brand podcast. This is episode 953, and today I'm going to be going over the content creation myth and mistakes, and I'm going to give you an action plan, all right, to get out there and start creating content for your brand, all right? Now, before you do that, you are going to want to listen to this episode because what I did here on one of my past coffee talks was I drilled into these myths and these mistakes that a lot of people fall into. And I've fallen into them myself at times, all right? So I'm going to break that down for you. If you are listening to this right now and you're like, Scott, you know what? I am convinced I want to start creating content for my brand because I can see the value in this. And I'm not talking about all different kinds of content. You're going to listen to this episode. I'm going to show you the exact kinds of content to create because we don't want to just create content. We want to create the right kind of content. And I'll give you a little hint here. It's evergreen content, content that we can put a little bit of energy into, plant a seed, and have it grow for months or years from now. All right. So that's one big thing that we need to make sure that we understand moving into this. All right. Now, if you are listening to this and you want to create content, but you're struggling, all right, after you listen to this episode and you're like, Scott, all right, I get it. I want to do it. I want to create content. Then I would encourage you to go through a brand new training. All right. It's a 7-day content creation challenge. All right. If you head on over to launchyourcontent.com, depending on when you're listening to this, all right, you are going to be able to go through that 7-day content creation challenge. And the idea here is for me to take you through this process over 7 days, little action steps. And at the very end of this challenge, you will have a full-fledged piece of content that was thought about intentionally for search traffic, for people that are searching for this content. It's going to attract the right people. It's going to lead them to your website. And it's going to do that over and over and over again for years. All right. And then we're also going to obviously show you how to publish it. All right. How to optimize it and how to repeat this process. All right. Not that hard, but you do have to follow this process. All right. So if you're interested in going through the 7-day content creation challenge, head on over to launchyourcontent.com. All right. So with that all being said, I am going to now turn it over to a recent coffee talk where I broke this down. I drilled down into the myths and the mistakes, and then I laid out an action plan. All right. Now, if you're listening to this and you're like, Scott, what are you talking about this coffee talk thing? Well, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I show up live on Facebook at 10 a.m. Eastern time, and you're more than welcome to join us. All you need to do is head on over to takeactioncrew.com. Again, that's takeactioncrew.com. It's free. All you need to do is show up. All right. That's all you got to do. It's just that. You just got to show up. All right. And you can watch the recordings. We have those there on that page too, takeactioncrew.com. There's a really cool player there that you can search through all of the past episodes, specific pieces of content that you're looking for. And it will take you to those different pieces of content that we've already created that will help you with that one thing that you're struggling with or the thing that you need the most help with right now. So takeactioncrew.com. All right, guys. So I'm going to stop talking now so you can listen to all of these myths and mistakes so you can avoid them and then get your action plan created so you can get out there and start creating your own content. All right. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. When people are thinking about content, they feel like they got to be everywhere. Right. And what I mean by that is when I hear people say, okay, I've got to create content for Instagram. I got to create content for Facebook. I got to create content for Pinterest. I got to create content for YouTube, the blog, Snapchat, all of this stuff. And I'm like, man, you're never going to be able to keep up with that ever. No one can. You'd need a full team, right? And you might be looking, well, Gary Vaynerchuk does it. He's got a team. He's got a massive team. And that's all that they do is crank, right? They're feeding. All right. That's not what we want to do. Now, what we can do in the future is we can amplify content using those different feeder platforms, if you will. Okay. But what we really want to think about, and I talked about this the other day. Actually, I shared this on Facebook, and I just wrote or I made a picture, and then I kind of let everybody know my thoughts on this. I want you guys to really think of content as evergreen content. That's the only thing that I want you to be thinking about right now. Okay. And evergreen content, what that basically means, I'm going to get into it a little bit more here. I've got some notes. I don't want to get off track here because I want to cover these myths, right? But I just want to get it right out there right now. Like, we have to shift the mindset that content is equal. It's not. Content is not equal. Okay. There's a place for all different types of content, but the bandwidth that you have is limited. Okay, the bandwidth that you have is limited. It's limited for me. It's limited for you as well, because we only have enough time or not enough hours in the day to do what we can do. So why not spend that time creating an asset? And again, I want you to understand that it's an asset. When you create a piece of evergreen content, I'm not just going to say content, it's evergreen content. When you create that, you have now created an asset for your brand that will bring traffic over to your brand of the right people. Okay. So just remember that and get that in the head. Okay. Content, if all I was to do is to come on here and do this Facebook Live, I am on Facebook right now. Okay. If you're listening to this on the podcast, well, I'm doing this as a way for me to be able to show up. It kind of forces me to create content on a regular basis because I'm showing up live. You guys are expecting it that are here live, right? You guys are like, well, Scott shows up Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I'm going to go there and hang out, and we're going to learn some stuff, right? So it forces me to do that, but I'm not doing it for the sole purpose of a Facebook post. I'm doing it because it allows me to create content that also can stand on its own as an evergreen piece of content. Now, that evergreen piece of content could be a podcast. And some of you asked me, I think it was on Friday when we talked about podcasting, blogging, YouTubing, like all of those things. What should you start with? Whatever is the easiest is my answer, right? But really, a podcast is an evergreen asset, right? I've got people that I can see all my downloads. There's still people going all the way back to episode 1, which I'm kind of like, oh boy, don't go there. And also lots changed since then, right? But there's people that are listening to episode 357, right? There might only be 12 people today that listen to that episode, but that's 12 people every single day. That's an evergreen piece of content. So this here that I'm doing, yes, it serves a purpose. It's here, it's engaging with live people. It will live on its own as a replay, but I'm not doing it for the sole purpose of that. I'm doing it because, number one, I want to help you, and I have more energy when I'm live. And then also, I deliver this piece of content that I can create an evergreen asset. It also will reside on the blog, okay, of Brand Creators. So it'll become its own standalone post, okay? That is evergreen, okay? If I create something for one of our case studies in Brand Creators Academy, there's 2 niche sites that we're building. Our main source there is articles that people are searching for. That is evergreen. Okay. That is evergreen. All right. So we got to shift that. If you create something for Instagram, not evergreen, it might sit up there in your IGTV library, but most of the time people are not going to find that. It's so limited, right? Create an IGTV story video or create a YouTube video. Which one? YouTube. That's the one I'm creating because it's evergreen. Okay. So evergreen. All right. So now that I got off of that little tangent, because I do get on a tangent with that stuff, because content is not the same. People say, oh, create content on all the different platforms. No, evergreen content is where we want to start. We can do all that other stuff later if you want, if you have the bandwidth for it, but not when we're grinding here. Okay. All right. So the myth is you have to be everywhere. You do not have to be everywhere. Okay. The other myth is this: you have to be on social media 3 times per day or more, or else you're just not going to be able to, get an audience. You're not going to be able to, get the algorithm to, to see your content. Well, it's true that you would have to do that if you were focusing on a social media platform to build up your followers, to build up your Instagram, and then all of a sudden find out that your reach is like so small, right? Like one of these days I should show you guys. I think I've got 30,000 people following the page of brand creators. 30,000. Okay. If I put out a random post, which I do often, sometimes I only reach 300 people. Only 300 people. Send an email. Let's say I send an email to the 30,000 people. And let's say, I don't know, let's say I only get a 10% open rate, which is usually more along the lines of like 20. Let's just say 10. Okay. What's that? 3,000? 3,300. What one do I want to focus on? Right. So again, there's your social media email list. That's why I'm so big on email list. Or I put a piece of content up and let's say that I'm getting 100 visitors to that piece of content every single day because people are doing searches that are coming over. It's the same idea. All right. So why would I want to spend my time and put myself on that hamster wheel where I got to keep feeding it? So again, you might be hearing people say, yeah, create your social media content planner schedule thingy. I don't want any part of that. I'm going to post when I want to post, when I have the time to post. Now, I'm not saying that I won't, because now I have evergreen content and I have a system in place. Podcast episodes are going out. Blogs are going out. That's a system, right? It's a process. It's kind of working on autopilot. Okay. In a sense, I got to show up, but then it's kind of done from there. So for me to come on and make a mention on Instagram, to make a mention on Facebook when I want, which is usually in the morning because that's when I'm sitting down looking at my analytics and doing that type of stuff, that's when I would do it. But I'm not going to sit here and plan out and schedule all of my social media posts and all of that stuff for that little bit of gain that I'm getting. I'd rather put money behind it and just push it, to be honest with you. Like that's what I'd rather do than just play that organic game on social. Now, the organic game on Google and Bing and Yahoo and Pinterest and YouTube, that's one I would play with. Okay. Because it just stands a better chance organically. Okay. So myth number 1, you have to be everywhere. No, you don't. Second one, you have to be on social media 3 times per day or more. No, you don't. And then the third one is you have to create tons of content. You got to create tons of content or else it isn't going to work. It's not true. Now, are your chances going to increase if you have more content on these evergreen content platforms? Absolutely. It's common sense, but you don't have to, okay, in order to get traffic and get those results. Okay, you do not have to. Now, I would recommend, and I'm going to give you guys like an action plan here. What I recommend is getting rid of like, okay, I got to be everywhere. I got to do a whole bunch of content all at once. It's like anything, you got to practice. So in order to practice, you got to get that content created and then get better at it and then start posting on a regular basis. And then we can start to scale that up a little bit. All right. We start baby steps. We crawl, we walk, we run, and we sprint. Okay. So those are the big myths. Okay. The 3 big myths there. You have to be everywhere. You got to be on social media 3 times per day, and you need to create tons of content. You don't have to. Okay. Now, that mindset shift, I should say. Okay. Evergreen content. I already mentioned that. And the other one that I want you to put in here is only focus on search intent content. Let's say that together. Search intent content. Okay. What does that mean? if you just randomly go, I think my audience wants to know about, I don't know, uh, bass fishing, I don't know, bass fishing, uh, let's say, locations, right? So you would just say, I think that's what people want to know. We don't want to think about it and say, oh, we guess that that's what they want. We want to do some research. And it doesn't have to be extensive research. It just means going to Google and doing a search and then see what they suggest, because they are the ones that are supplying the search queries for people. Okay. So we want to not have to focus so much on, oh, there's thousands of people searching for this. We just want to know that it's coming up in these search platforms, because then we know that at least it's been searched for. That's it. In the very beginning, I'm not looking at like, okay, is this competitive? How many, how many searches does it get? Should I do this one versus this one? This one right here's got 25 backlinks and this one here's got 12. Which one's a better one? Which I got a better chance for? We don't want to go down that road in the beginning, because we don't want to get paralyzed in the over analyzing. We just want to create and get something out there, and you have a better chance of you then being found. Even if it's 5 visitors a day, it doesn't matter. Okay. So evergreen content, I think I've already said that, right? We want to get that shift. We want to think about that. Not just content, it's evergreen content. And then from there, it needs to be search intent. Okay. Search intent. All right. So now let's talk about the mistakes. Okay. I talked about the myths. Let's talk about some mistakes. Okay. People are just creating content to create content. And it goes with what I just said about search intent. You cannot just say, I'm just going to create some content because I'm creating content. Scott said you should create content. I'm going to create content. I'm going to put out a post about my take on writing in a journal daily, right? Like, there's a few people in the academy that were doing that in the beginning. And then once I did a hot seat with them, I'm like, why aren't we doing search stuff for what the search engines are saying that people are searching for, versus you saying, this is just what I want to write about, right? And that's fine if you want to just write about anything, but you want to write on a topic that's being searched for. Okay. You want to write on a topic that's being searched for. But you don't have to get crazy with the, again, the data. You can just do a very, very little bit, but also know that that's something that's being searched for. All right. I'll give you guys something here in a minute on the action plan, because I want to give you guys something to do. And by the way, depending on when you're watching this, if it's live or before Wednesday, got something pretty cool coming that I'm gonna actually help people go through this process. And again, I'm not going to give it all away yet, but it is going to be very simple, and it's going to be actionable. And at the very end, you're going to have a piece of content, maybe even the 3 pieces of content, because I'll show you how to take 1 and make 3. So if you're interested in that, I don't have a link for you today. Just write interested in the comments. You can also just DM me. But that's coming. So on Wednesday of this week, again, depending on when you're listening to this, I'm going to make that announcement. It's going to be pretty cool. So check it out when it's available. And if you are struggling with content, if you want to get dialed in and create evergreen content for your brand, a digital asset, by the way, these are digital assets. Think about this. An asset that's working for your business 24/7, 365 days a year. Not a post that's here today, in 24 hours it's gone or it's buried. We're not talking about that. We're talking about only creating evergreen assets and really evergreen content that brings traffic back to your brand. Okay. So look out for that. I'm pretty excited about it. Something brand new. All right. So moving on. Mistakes. We just talked about creating content just to create content. Making content perfect. Man, how many of us struggle with perfectionism? I have. I'm better at it now, but I used to. I used to struggle with writing my emails. I'd have my wife read it, and then I'd go back over it, and then I'd have her read it again, and then I just wouldn't send it because I was like, this doesn't sound good. And then finally I got over it and I said, you know what? Something's better than nothing. And I sent it out and nothing bad happened. Same thing with content. We created 2 case study brands inside of the academy. And both of those, if you go back and look at the first couple of articles, not that great. They're okay. They're getting traffic right now. And they weren't that great. But if we just sat on those and we didn't create more articles after that and kept getting better and better, we wouldn't have ever got started. Okay. So we got to get over the content perfection trap. All right. So we have to get past that. The best way to get past it is to start doing it. Okay. Just, you got to start creating. Okay. And then the next mistake is choosing the wrong platform for yourself. So what I mean by that is, for some people, showing up on video is easy. I say easy, easier than writing. For you to sit down and write, you might be like, oh, that's painful. Like me. I'd rather do this and then take this, publish it, and then have someone come back and transcribe it and edit it and put it into a well-written thing. Okay. So that's what I would rather do. So don't set yourself up for failure in a sense that you're going to start on a platform just because you think there's more opportunity there. You're going to go there, but it's going to be a struggle and a grind for you to create that content. Okay. So we don't want to fall into that trap. So it's really important when you're starting, you choose the platform or the medium that is going to be best for you. Okay. What is the best one for you? Okay. And I'm not talking about Instagram. I'm not talking about Snapchat. I'm not talking about TikTok. I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about, are you going to write content for a blog? Are you going to create videos for YouTube? Those are really the only 2 that I'm looking at right now. Pinterest, that's somewhat of an amplifier. Okay. But it's definitely an evergreen, but I would not start there and say, I'm just going to create a Pinterest account with Pinterest boards and pins. I wouldn't start there. I would start with one or the other. I would start with the blog web. Well, I would always have a website, but that I would always start with one or the other there in the beginning. And if you're struggling, even with a website, even if you're struggling with a website, you're like, I just don't want to put up the website, which I think everyone should have that home base. But if you're struggling with that, you just want to get in that content creation rhythm and you feel like a video is going to be super easy for you, then you go down the YouTube road. You just set up an account. You go ahead and start posting videos. You can do that like for free. Okay. But I do think that even if you're going to do that, you'd want to, have a website and a blog that we can then direct people to, which would come later. And really both of those platforms can work well together. But what one is it going to be the easiest for you to be able to create content on a regular basis? All right. So mistakes. Creating content just to create content has no meaning behind it as far as the search. Okay. There's no search intent there. Making content perfect. Okay. We don't need to do that. And then choosing the wrong platform for yourself or the wrong medium. Okay. So those are some mistakes. We need to get rid of those. Okay. So with that being said, let's jump into a little bit of an action plan here. Okay. I've got my notes here. So step number 1 is choosing your platform. We just talked about that. I think before you even think about what content you're going to create, you got to figure out what is that platform that you're going to be publishing to. Is it a blog? Is it YouTube? To me, it's one or the other. Okay. 2, you need to, and again, this is before we write any content or before we create any content, video, whatever, audio, doesn't matter. We want to commit to the same day every week in your mind and mark your calendar. This is so critical. So are you going to commit to having your homework done, right? Like, so imagine that you had a teacher say, hey, you need to have this in by Friday. So you're going to make up that day, but then you're going to stick to that day. So let's say it's Friday. Let's say it's Wednesday. and you say, okay, Wednesday by 9 a.m. in the morning, that's when I need to hand in my homework. And that's when it would be done. And then you mark that on your calendar, go to Google Calendar or whatever calendar system you use, and take every Wednesday and you just block out that and you say 9 a.m. It's got to be published. It's got to be published, whether it's YouTube, whether it's the blog, doesn't matter. Okay. That's got to be done before we ever even write a piece of content or create a piece of content. Okay. Choose platform, commit to the day that you're going to publish. Okay. The next, we're going to move into, okay, we want to now come up with some search intent content. How are we going to do that? We're going to find questions in your niche that people are already asking. This is the simplest way to figure out what you're going to write about or create a video about. So what are people asking? What are the questions? Can you catch bass in a pond? There's a question, right? Can you catch bass at night? Question, right? There's your post. There's your piece of content. Those are the simplest ones to do. And you can literally probably sit down right now and come up with 5 or 10 of those immediately. All right. Now, again, I am going to walk you through all of this in this. I can't give it away yet, but in this training that I'm going to be doing. Okay. And you are going to have a chance to go through it for free. There are some details there. But I'm doing this as a test. So we're going to see how it all shakes out at the end. But I'm going to be announcing that this Wednesday, which is going to be 16th, 17th. Is that 17th? Yeah, today's Monday, 15th, 16th, 17th. I can do math. I'm going to announce it, and then I will announce when we're going to do it, and it will be live. All right. So keep an eye out for that. So we're going to find questions in our niche. Basic questions. And you might already have 5 or 10 of them. Might not even need to do any digging. You might not need to go to Google and do a little Google search and then see what comes up, or go to Uber Suggest or Answer to Public, wherever you want to go. Doesn't matter. You need to do that. So you have the plan in place now. So now you're not thinking to yourself, oh my gosh, I've got this thing coming up. I got to publish it on Wednesday because that's when I committed to it, but I don't know what I'm going to put together. I don't know how I'm going to create this, all of that stuff. So you need to have that done, okay? And then moving into, how are you going to create the piece of content? Are you going to write or are you going to record? One or the other, okay? Make that decision, okay? If you're going to write it. If you're going to have someone write it, find someone, okay? If you're going to record it yourself. Doesn't have to be fancy. You can use your iPhone or whatever phone you're using, the Android. You don't need a fancy camera. You don't need a fancy mic. You don't need fancy background. You just need to answer the questions, okay? If you can't do it, find someone that can, okay? And it's easier than you think, guys. I mean, it really is. I think a lot of people overcomplicate this part of it. Doesn't have to be that hard. You can always level up later, okay? So write or record and then post it on your posting date. And that is it. That's the action plan. Okay, so 1, choose your platform, blogging or YouTube. Next one, commit to the same day every week in your mind. Right now, mark it on the calendar. 3, find your questions that the market is asking right now. 4, write it or record it. And then 5, I think that's 5. Yeah, post on your posting date that you committed to. And that's it. We're done. Okay, so let's cover the myths real quick. You have to be everywhere. You have to be on social media 3 times per day. You need to create tons of content. Wrong. Do not have to do that. We need to also shift the mindset. We need to be thinking evergreen content, not just content. And we need to use always the filter of search intent. Okay. And then the mistakes to avoid is creating content just to create it. We don't want to do that. We want to find search intent content. We do not have to make it perfect. A lot of people try to make it perfect. And then choosing the wrong platform for yourself because you find out that it's really not the one that you are good at or the one that you want to do or the easiest one for you to do. All right. So hopefully this has helped you. That's the content creation myth and mistakes debunked, and there should be no excuse. All right. Well, there you go. All you need to do now is follow the plan. All right. I gave you the action plan. All right. Now, if you want a little bit more hand-holding, actually a lot more hand-holding, then all you need to do is go to launchyourcontent.com. You are going to find a full training there. Well, I'll walk you through everything exactly on how to come up with the best topics, the topics that are being searched for, by the way. We don't just want to create content to create content. We want to create evergreen content that is actively being searched for in your niche. That's what we're doing. And we want to track those people, and then those people will become part of our audience, and then we can make offers, right? We can build our email list. We can do all of that stuff. And a lot of this stuff is going to happen free. All right. We're able to put out that content and get free traffic. All right. So if you're interested in going through that, head on over to launchyourcontent.com and get all the details over there. So guys, that's it. That's going to wrap it up. As always, remember, I'm here for you. I believe in you, and I am rooting for you. But you have to, come on, say it with me, say it loud, say it proud, take action. Have an awesome, amazing day, and I'll see you right back here on the next episode. Now let's rock your brand.